is up, everybody? Welcome in this week's edition of the Sunday Show, episode number 3. We're so excited to be with you. I hope you've had a great week. I've had a great week. It has been wonderful. I can't wait until you see what we have in store for us today. Joining me as always, our number one intern, the best intern at Christ Baptist Church, right? Mr. Jarrett Slusher. What's going on, my man?
It's going good.
Yeah. Well, hey, tell us what you've been up to. I know you took a little vacation and you took some time off, went down to Florida. Tell everybody what you had to do.
I did. Went down to Florida. It was great. We saw, me and my buddy Drew saw, what you'll be seeing later tonight. I saw the second best intern, as always, Francesca.
So I don't know if you missed the big news this week, but on Wednesday we made a huge announcement. How big was it?
Really big. I wasn't expecting it.
It was gigantic. So Jarrett, tell everybody that missed it what the announcement is, and remind those if they saw it. What is the big announcement?
The announcement is we're meeting back August 30th. Woo! I can get the full spin. We'll be doing it only outside, and it will be blast. You better come.
That's right. August 30th, 5 o'clock. We'll meet outside at the church. We'll be outside, so be praying for some good weather. We'll have some games set up. We'll spend some time in the Word. It'll be a great night. So you'll want to make plans to attend that if you're ready to come back. If you're not, we understand. That's fine. We look forward to when everybody else can join us, but we will be outside for the time being. Hope that you were able to watch last week's show. I thought it went really well.
From what I saw, it was amazing.
It was amazing. I really appreciate Andy joining us. He did just a wonderful job. Talking about youth ministry, it was a great time. I enjoyed that conversation. I hope that you were able to take some truths from that, some nuggets from that, and hopefully as we start to come back together, you'll be able to find an importance in youth group again, and that it'll be great, and I hope it'll be a good time. So I'm ready to welcome you back, and I hope you all are ready to come back. Tonight we have a good show in store for you, a good time in store for you tonight. In just a few moments, Jarrett and I we're gonna cut out of here, and you're gonna be led in worship by Jarrett and I, and Amy Johnson and Kate Dillon are with us, and so we're gonna be leading you in a song, "The Goodness of God." And so I hope you'll be able to lean in during that song like you did last week, I hope, and just sing of the goodness of God and how He's been faithful, and proclaim that truth and how good He is. And so we'll sing that song together, and then you're going to get to join in on the conversation that Jarrett, as he mentioned, had with his buddy Drew as they were in Florida together. And this week they're going to be talking about rest and leisure, and it's a really good conversation. So I hope you'll lean into that as well and listen. I hope you'll find just some truths in there that you can apply to your life. You know, a lot of times we think about the Christian life, especially in teenagers, sometimes it becomes so compartmentalized, right? Like you think of, okay, if I go on Sunday and this is church, then Monday's not, Tuesday's not, Wednesday's not. And so walking with Jesus is something that needs to just impact every aspect of our life, and not just who we are on Sunday, but like the gospel impacts who we are every single day of our life. And so they're going to talk about what that means as it looks to resting and spending time in leisure, and how to make that valuable and how to redeem that time. And I know that you'll enjoy that conversation. I thought y'all did a good job, my man. And so I hope everybody else finds some truths in there to bring home and to use. So you enjoy the show. Jarrett and I are going to get out of here. We'll be back in a few minutes to wrap it up. But until then, enjoy the show.
Mercy never fails me. All my Hey everybody, Jarrett here. I'm with my buddy Drew. We're in Largo, Florida. And this week we're going to talk about the subject of leisure or resting. And so Drew and I we're not experts on the subject, but we have some ideas for this topic, mostly because we have done a plan through the Bible app that he and I have done together. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about a week or so, we could study on...
Something like that.
Yeah, like a study on leisure. And what does leisure mean? What does godly leisure look like? What does it mean to be a steward of leisure and rest and all these things? And so, Drew, do you want to talk about kind of what that study was about real quick?
Yeah, so it was basically kind of exploring the idea of integrating your free time, your leisure time, into your Christian life in a way that would honor God. Because, as Christians, we don't want to have compartmentalized lives. Everything should belong to Christ, even our free time. So it was just kind of exploring ways to sort of do that, little tips and things for doing that successfully. And I know that you took notes on the plan. I did not. And it's been a little bit. So you'll probably be a little sharper in it. I might need a little bit of a refresher. But we're going to try to just have a conversation about it as best we can, and hopefully it'll prompt discussions with you guys as well on just what that looks like, being a good steward of your leisure. So,
yeah, definitely. So I know I don't think leisure is necessarily something that we talk about as a youth group as much, or probably as much as we should. And I know for me, before we did this plan, whenever I thought of leisure or rest, I would think of, okay, well, God rested on the seventh day after creation, and he took a break from working. And so, okay, leisure is taking a break from work. And that's, I think, probably the most, or probably the one thing that people think of when we think of rest and leisure is not working. But through this study, we actually saw that leisure is more than just not working. There's actually a purpose to leisure, a purpose to rest, and there's an outcome that is to be expected, and actually a goal with it as well. And so one passage that stuck out to me from the plan is Ecclesiastes 3:12 through 13, which says, "I perceive that there is nothing better for humanity than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man." And so, yeah, leisure is a rest from work, but our life is, as Drew said, it's all encompassing. Mm-hmm. Everything is devoted to Christ, which means our leisure, our rest time is also devoted to Him, not just the things that we do, but the things that we either take a break from, abstain from, everything that we do, and vice versa not do, is a surrender to Him. So, essentially, leisure, yes, it's a rest. It's also it can be thought of as like a cycle. There's the working aspect where we are getting things done, we're accomplishing things, we're checking off our checklists. But there's also then the part where we don't do those things, and obviously we say we're resting, or we take a Sabbath day and we take a break from that. But even that has a purpose. Mm-hmm. It's not just come up with on the spot, right?
For sure, yeah. I think it says a lot about a person, what they choose to do when they don't have to do anything. It says a lot about their character. And something interesting that the Ecclesiastes passage kind of reminded me of is leisure and rest isn't a bad thing. Yeah. It was part of God's original creation. Yeah. Adam's job was to tend the garden, but also in the cool of the day he would walk and talk with the Lord. So it's definitely something that God is a need that God has built into us as humans. Yeah. And I think that sometimes, me in the past, I've seen it as something like, oh, if I'm not always doing something for God, then, I'm sinning,
Yeah.
Which I don't think is the case. Another great example of that is with Mary and Martha. How Martha was just going around serving, working, preparing all this food and everything, and she wanted Jesus to kind of chastise Mary for just resting and just spending time with Jesus. But his response was, "Hey, Mary's chosen the better thing." Yeah. So it's seasons, time and a place, but I don't think it should be viewed as something that it's definitely a necessary thing.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. Yeah, we're not just always supposed to be working, always supposed to be doing whatever's on the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do take time to just take a break, to relax. And I think we can get ourselves in trouble when we think of, oh, I'm not doing X, Y, Z, A, B, C at this moment, and therefore I'm not living a life that's holy and surrendered to God. We are supposed to be still, as the psalm says, be still and know that I'm God.
Mm-hmm.
That be still is also can be translated be at leisure, be at rest. Don't just continue to work. Don't overwork yourselves, but take time to rest and rest in the truths of Scripture and the truths of Christ. Not just taking a break and not doing anything. Like, we have to make sure we know what leisure is and what leisure isn't.
Yeah.
And leisure is not just being idle, having an absence of activity. You are leisure is an activity, and it can be filled with different activities. But it has a purpose to it. It's not just, I'm just not going to do anything for whatever.
Exactly. Something my dad still likes to say, is recreation should recreate your sort of need for God and your dependence on Him. So it should always, like we were saying before, it should always be something that is meaningful. I don't think as Christians we're called to waste our time or to, just be frivolous with it. We should enjoy our leisure, but it should also be something that brings honor to God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quote that I really enjoyed from the plan, I want to say it was like day 4, but that could have been. But the goal of leisure is not to enjoy the pleasures of the world. Rather, the goal of leisure is to enjoy God through His creation, so recreating every moment.
Yep.
We're not just going to say, oh, well, playing video games is fun, or reading a book is fun. And they are, and they're good things. Or they could be neutral things. But
doing that for 12 hours a day is probably not the best use of your time.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that go on in life, and we have we're finite beings. So what that means is we have X amount of time, but that X is not infinite. It's finite. It has an end date. And so what happens between now and the end of your life is, what are you going to fill your time with? And are you doing it purposefully, or are you just floating with the breeze and letting whatever come and happen? Again, leisure's not idleness, not absence of activity. It's not slacking off or neglecting your responsibilities or putting things off for a later day. Now, the last one, it could be that if you're purposeful in saying, I'm going to rest from this so I can get back to it, or take a break from overworking. But again, that also comes from the heart. Are you in a place of worship with your leisure, with resting, or are you, it's all about the heart, or are you just saying, I'm lazy, I don't want to get to it right now, I'll get to it later.
I think in Proverbs it says, I'm not sure exactly which chapter, but something along the lines of, don't put off the good you could do today for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's a balance thing. It's a little bit of a balancing act, but I think that in all things in life, we should seek to have that balance between work and leisure. And I think it's interesting because I think in both of our seasons of life, we're sort of and not opposite, but we're in different places with as far as what leisure needs to be for us.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that God has been kind of convicting me that I've been sort of just being a little bit wasteful and lazy with my time. One big thing for me is just YouTube. I'll just get on my phone and I'll say, it's my default activity is just sitting down and then just scrolling through YouTube and being that's an interesting video, let me watch that. And then 3 hours have gone by and I've not done what I've set out to accomplish that day. So something that God's been kind of putting on my heart is to maybe distance myself from that a little bit and seek to, in my times of leisure, in my times of rest, to seek Him a little bit more. Maybe that looks like reading something good. Maybe that looks like just spending that time in prayer. A really good quote that Charles Spurgeon actually said. I don't remember if I got this from the plan or It might have been from the Plan.
There's a lot of Spurgeon in the Plan.
Yeah. In any case, Spurgeon once said, "We are quite persuaded that the very best way for you to be spending your leisure time is to be either reading or praying. You may get much instruction from books, which afterward you may use as a true weapon in your Lord and Master's service." So I think that that's sort of a case of like, if you're reading something good, the Bible, or maybe just, a self-help book, or even just something that will develop you more into the person that God wants you to be, or you're praying, you don't always have to be doing those things, but I don't think you can go wrong with them. Mm-hmm. Like that's a pretty surefire way to make sure that your free time, your leisure time is honoring God. But I think that you're sort of in a different position right now in your life, where God is sort of revealing some different things to you. What do those look like?
Yeah, so for me, I guess I guess around the time we started the Plan a few weeks ago, but I was in a position where I was just spending a lot of time focusing on work and responsibilities and things that like I needed to get done, instead of taking a break and relaxing and taking a step back. And so one thing that God placed back in my life that actually used to be an idol, but now with where I am in life as a 23-year-old man and not a elementary school student, middle school student, is video games. And I can actually now, after having gone through different seasons of life, I can play video games and have the self-discipline to say, okay, I don't want to spend so much time entertaining myself with this, but how can I analyze this game? How can I critique it and understand the story that is being told? If it's a narrative game, there's online video games where you can just kind of be there for the community, but there are games where there's not like an online community per se. There's a story being told, and so how can I understand the craftsmanship of that story, critique it, and likewise integrate whatever story is told, or the story telling aspect that's used? How can I use that and utilize it within sharing the gospel, whether I use video games as a future job or whatever in creating them, or just as an artist, as a storyteller in general? How can I incorporate that aspect of storytelling for the sake of the gospel?
Yeah.
And of course for me, y'all know me, I'm pretty big in the entertainment, not business, but I love to either entertain or at least be involved with entertainment, whether that's music or video games and movies and TVs and stuff. Mm-hmm. So for me, I have to also make sure that I'm not just entertaining myself for the sake of entertaining myself and because I'm bored and I want to fill my time with something. I have to be intentional with both analyzing and utilizing what I'm putting in my mind, putting them through my eyes, and ultimately in my heart, that I'm using that for the gospel and not just for my sake because I'm bored and want to just do something for the entertainment purposes. Mm-hmm. So
I think another facet of that is just like fellowship.
Yeah,
there are lots of just games that you can play with other people, and I feel like there have been times in my life where it has been a good thing for me to play games because I've gotten to spend time with people and build those relationships. And I think ultimately you have to be careful that you don't get lost in it, but I think ultimately the goal should be, how can I connect with this person so that I can lead them to the gospel? Something my pastor likes to say is, before Jesus corrected, he connected. With like the tax collectors, the prostitutes, the sinners. He spent time with them, but it was always his aim to get them to the Father. So I think the same should be true for us.
Yeah.
Redeeming the time because the days are evil. What if that's a vehicle through which we can share the gospel? By all means, let's do it. So
definitely. That actually reminds me of a quote by C.S. Lewis. Our leisure, even our play, is a matter of serious concern. That's because there's no neutral ground in the universe. Mm-hmm. Every square inch, every split second is claimed by God and counterclaimed by Satan. And so there's things in life that are fun, that are neutral. Not neutral in the sense that like no one's using them spiritually, as we just read. Either God has claimed them or they're claimed by Satan. But there's neutral things like video games, movies, music. Like they're not bad in and of themselves. Mm-hmm. They are merely vessels for good or bad.
How people use them.
Yeah, how they're used. And so, and obviously, like for us, like, so I talk about for myself, entertainment, video games, and Drew's talking about that for himself as well. But just because something that I do, say I play video games for 3 hours, this is not a comparison, or leisure is not to be used as a comparison. So, okay, well, Jarrett can play video games for 3 hours and not be affected. Therefore, I can play video games for 3 hours and not be affected the same. We're all different spiritually. Maybe you can play 4 hours or 5 hours and not be hindered in your spiritual walk. I don't know if I could say I can do that, but we're all different. So don't use leisure as a comparison, and don't compare yourself to other people. And just because something may cause you to stumble doesn't mean that it'll cause someone else to stumble. So we can't sit here and say, okay, this activity is not good for leisure. Oh, and this one is. That's more of a spiritual matter between you and the Lord.
Exactly.
And your parents have a good deal to say about that as well. If you're surrendering that ultimately to the Lord and obeying your parents, they probably have some good scheduling ideas and guidelines, and they can help you out with that. So good questions that I think the plan had and that you kind of hinted at as well. These are just, they're not 4 questions, but they're 4 ideas, and there's questions centered around these 4 ideas. And the first one is just ask, why do you want to do it? Why do you want to watch this movie or watch this TV show or read this book? Why do you want to do it? Is it to entertain yourself? Is it to understand more about the psychology of the author? Is it more to blah, 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 blah? Why do you want to do it? What are you trying to gain from this activity you want to do? Will it be a help or a hindrance in your walk with God? Is it morally positive, neutral, or negative? So we talked about, the God claiming it for the positive and Satan claiming it for the negative. Now, there are going to be some things that are in themselves bad, like certain movies you want to avoid, and TV shows and games that have snippets of different sins in there, whether like explicit that or well known or subtle. So you have to be aware of them. You can't just take everything in like a sponge. You want to be more like a gold mine.
What do you use for pasta? Like a strainer.
A strainer, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of filtering out the bad and the things that are going to hurt your relationship with Christ and your intimacy with Christ.
Yeah. It needs to be active. You don't just want to take everything in for the sake of, enjoying something random.
Yeah. Everything is permissible, but everything is not beneficial.
Yeah.
That is certainly true.
So, yeah. And are you using it as a cover-up or as a covering for your own sin? Does it violate your conscience? If it does, then that's most likely a sign that the Lord does not want you to be involved in it, but rather to stay away from it. And ultimately, if you stay away from certain things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're missing out on anything that God has in store for you. If the Lord is stirring your conscience against something. Like I remember when I was younger, I would always want certain video games to play, but for some reason I never got them. And then later I would find out that whether it was just a bad game in terms of story or gameplay quality, well, and it just wasn't necessary for my life that I had that thing. And so I could go in the store like 2 weeks or a month later and say, I don't really need that. That doesn't affect me right now. I don't need that. So just because you don't, do a certain activity doesn't mean you're missing out on God's plan for you. It just means that, He has given you certain things, and it's your responsibility to do them well. And whatever is not yours, it's not, in your life. But everything else is a gift, and let's use that to the best of our ability.
Indeed.
And then last, would you be happy to do this? Insert thing here. If Jesus was with you, will it glorify God, or is it something that you you don't want anyone to know about? If it's that, it's probably not good for you. You don't want to, hinder your relationship with the Lord just for one meager activity or entertainment thing.
Just momentary pleasure for, possibly a lifetime of regret later. It's not worth it. And that's definitely been a really good sort of litmus test for me in my life. Like, I'm watching this movie, and if Jesus were sitting next to me, would I be kind of squirming in my seat and really uncomfortable? Or this game or this song? So I think those are some very good kind of questions and ideas to keep in your mind regarding leisure.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sweet. Do you have any final thoughts before we close?
Probably just that everybody's in a different season of life, and I think that using wisdom and prayer regarding how you spend your free time is definitely an important thing. I think that whatever you do, whether you're eating or drinking, playing games, watching movies, or just witnessing to people, whatever you do it to the glory of God. I think we can both agree with that.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, if our leader's if it's not edifying or building us up in Christ, then it's most likely a hindrance and it needs to be just cut out. And so I'll leave us with this quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's also from The Plan. But guard well your spare moments. They are like uncut diamonds. Discard them, and their value will never be known. Improve them, and they will become the brightest gems in a useful life. And so you can take, whatever you use for leisure, whether that's video games, movies, music, reading, sports, if you play games, or if you just want to rest, have a personal sanctuary, you include yourself from the world and just say, I'm going to rest, I'm going to sleep, I'm going to just be by myself for a little bit. Whatever you do it for the glory of God, and use it ultimately for Him. Don't take it upon yourself to say, I'm doing this for me because I want to, because that leads us to a very dangerous place, and our lives will be askew from that kind of thinking. But if we say, I'm going to take whatever I decide to do, and I'm surrendering that to the Lord, to whatever He would do with it, then we'll be in a life that is continually led by Him, and that glorifies and magnifies Him. So,
Cool.
All right, good word, awesome. And see y'all next week.
God bless, guys.
All right, thanks Jarrett and Drew for those words of wisdom, and what an encouraging word for us as followers of Christ. I was just thinking of the passage of 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it for the glory of God. And they referenced that in that conversation they had. Like whatever we do, whether we're eating, we're drinking, we're playing video games, we're playing a sport, we're hanging out on a chat platform, Discord or Instagram or GroupMe or whatever we are doing, like let's do that for the glory of God. Let's redeem those things, even in things that we just love to do for fun, even in the things that we do just to escape reality, right? And sometimes we just want to get away, and so whether that's scrolling your phone through social media, whether it's reading, whether it's do those things for God's glory, right? So that others may see your light shining before them. So again, guys, thanks for sharing that word with us. I hope that was encouraging to you, students. I hope you'll take something from that this week to use in your life to sharpen you and to make you more like Jesus. And so that brings this show to its end today. And not gratefully, I've enjoyed doing these shows, right? And being able to be on camera and talk to you. But gratefully, we're going to be back together live and in person next Sunday, August 30th. So I'm excited to see real people and real faces and to gather together. So we'll meet at 5 o'clock. We're going to meet outside the youth room where we usually play on the field. So we'll have some games set up. We'll be able to do that. We'll be able just to hang out and chat and fellowship and enjoy one another. We're going to spend some time in the Word. We're going to pray together. We're going to be taking some precautions. We're going to be trying to socially distance as much as we can. We're going to be trying to keep our hands cleaned and do the things we can do to try to help us ensure that we can continue to meet together. All right. So I'll be sending out some information this week that'll kind of let us know what we expect of you as students and what our parents can expect from us as leaders as we interact with the students next week. And just know that the things that we put in place are going to be helping us to be able to continue to meet together. So just know that the things we ask you to do, we're asking you to do it so that we can do our best, right? We can pray, we can trust in God, but let's be smart about how we meet back together. And I'm excited about that. I'm so excited. You have no idea. But anyways, next Sunday, August 30th, 5 o'clock, I hope to see you there. And so as we say goodbye from today's Sunday show edition, we say, I can't wait to see you next week. So you guys have a great week.